The attic was dusty, smelling of old paper and forgotten memories. Sunbeams, like spectral fingers, reached through cracks in the boarded-up window, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the air. I was sifting through my grandfather's belongings, each item a relic from a life lived. Then I saw it. Tucked inside a leather-bound journal, an envelope, yellowed with age, addressed to me in my grandfather's familiar spidery handwriting. My heart pounded. My grandfather had been gone for 5 years. The ink was faded, but the words were clear. "My dearest grandchild," it began. As I sat there, the letter trembling in my hands, I couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. The paper was yellowed with age, the ink slightly faded, yet the words were as clear as if they had been written yesterday. The dusty attic seemed to press in on me, its shadows whispering secrets long forgotten. Each creak of the floorboards felt like a ghostly echo of the past. The musty air grew thick with unease, as if the very atmosphere was charged with the weight of untold stories. Dust particles danced in the sunlight like tiny specters of memories. My grandfather's words echoed in my mind, each one a sharp prickle against the fabric of my reality. His voice, though long silenced, seemed to resonate within the walls of this forgotten space. He had always been a man of few words, his silence often speaking volumes. His stern gaze in the old photographs seemed to follow me, as if urging me to uncover the truth. His tales of adventure in far-off lands, recounted during my childhood, had always held a hint of melancholy. Those stories, filled with distant places and mysterious encounters, now seemed to hold deeper meanings. The memories he had stirred, the lost day in the park, the near-choking incident, the laughter and the tears, the fall from the tree, each moment was a piece of a larger puzzle. All came flooding back with startling clarity, as if the past was not just a memory but a living, breathing entity. Had someone been watching over me, protecting me from unseen dangers? Was there a guardian angel, or perhaps a shadowy figure guiding my steps? Or was my mind playing tricks on me? The line between reality and imagination blurred, leaving me in a state of confusion. The letter was a puzzle box, and I was desperately searching for the key to unlock its secrets. Each word, each phrase, seemed to hold a hidden meaning, a clue to a mystery that spanned generations. Days turned into weeks, and the letter became a constant presence in my life. I carried it with me everywhere, the paper worn soft from my touch. I reread it countless times, each time hoping to glean a new insight. The warning, "Beware the crossroads," echoed in my mind, a constant refrain that kept me looking over my shoulder. I found myself avoiding crossroads, both literally and metaphorically. The world seemed full of unseen dangers, and I felt vulnerable, exposed. My grandfather's words had planted a seed of doubt in my mind, and it was growing with each passing day. Every shadow seemed to hold a hidden threat, every coincidence a confirmation of my fears. My world, once a place of comfort and security, had become a labyrinth of uncertainty. One evening, lost in thought as I drove home from work, I approached an intersection. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, the sun setting behind the horizon, casting long shadows on the road. The familiar feeling of unease washed over me, and I hesitated, a shiver running down my spine. It was as if an invisible hand was holding me back, urging me to pause and take a moment to reconsider. It was just a crossroads, an ordinary intersection like any other, with the usual traffic lights and the hum of engines around me. Yet something felt different, almost surreal. My grandfather's words echoed in my mind, "Beware the crossroads." He had always been a man of wisdom, often sharing cryptic advice that seemed nonsensical at the time but made perfect sense in moments like these. As if in slow motion, a car sped past, running the red light, missing me by a hair's breadth. The driver seemed oblivious to the danger, their face a blur as they zoomed by. The screech of tires, the blast of the horn, the smell of burnt rubber, it all happened in a heartbeat. The cacophony of sounds was overwhelming, each one amplifying the gravity of the situation. I slammed on the brakes, my heart pounding in my chest. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. Had I not hesitated, I would have been in the path of that car. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks, leaving me breathless and shaken. The thought sent a chill down my spine, a cold dread that settled deep in the pit of my stomach. It was a feeling that lingered, refusing to let go. This wasn't just a coincidence. It felt like a premonition, a warning from some unseen force. My grandfather's letter was more than just a collection of words on a page. It was a lifeline, a connection to a wisdom that transcended time and space. His advice had saved me, and I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude and awe. The near accident shook me to my core, solidifying my belief in the power of my grandfather's words. The anniversary of his death was approaching, and a sense of foreboding hung heavy in the air. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was going to happen, something significant. I found myself drawn back to the attic, to the dusty trunk that held my grandfather's belongings. As I sifted through his old journals and photographs, a strange sense of peace washed over me. As the day of his death arrived, I found myself standing before his grave, a single white rose in my hand. The cemetery was quiet, the only sound the rustling of leaves in the wind. As I turned to leave, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. A fresh envelope rested on the headstone, another letter. With bated breath, I tore open the envelope, my heart pounding in my chest. The anticipation was almost unbearable, as if the letter held the key to a mystery I'd been trying to solve for years. The paper was crisp and new, yet the ink bore the same distinctive shade as the first letter, a deep emerald green. It was a color that seemed to hold secrets of its own, whispering tales of the past. "My dear grandchild," it began, the familiar salutation sending a shiver down my spine. It was as if my grandfather was right there with me, his voice echoing in my mind. "I trust this letter finds you well, though I suspect that well is a relative term under the circumstances." The words seemed to reach out and touch my very soul, resonating with an eerie accuracy. How could my grandfather know how I was feeling? It was as if he had a window into my life, seeing things that no one else could. How could he possibly be communicating with me from beyond the grave? The thought sent chills down my spine, making me question everything I knew about life and death. The letter went on to describe a series of events that mirrored my life with uncanny accuracy. It was as if my grandfather had been watching over me, guiding me through the twists and turns of my daily existence. It spoke of my recent promotion at work, a milestone I had worked so hard to achieve. The pride I felt was now tinged with a sense of wonder and disbelief. My burgeoning relationship with a new love interest was also mentioned, a connection that had brought so much joy into my life. How could he have known about this? Even the troublesome leak I'd been meaning to fix in my bathroom was noted, a mundane detail that seemed almost trivial in the grand scheme of things. Then the tone shifted, the words taking on a more urgent, almost frantic quality. It was as if my grandfather was trying to warn me about something that could change everything. "Beware the Ides of March," the letter warned. The phrase echoed in my mind, filling me with a sense of dread and foreboding. What could it mean? What was my grandfather trying to tell me from beyond the grave? The arrival of the second letter threw my world into a tailspin. It was one thing to dismiss the first letter as a strange coincidence, a figment of a grieving mind. But this was undeniable proof that something extraordinary was happening. My grandfather was communicating with me from beyond the grave, guiding me, warning me of dangers yet to come. The Ides of March. The words echoed in my mind, a countdown to an unknown event that filled me with a sense of dread. I sought answers in ancient texts, in folklore and myth. I consulted experts in the paranormal, hoping to find someone who could shed light on this mystery. But no one could offer a definitive explanation for the letters. As the weeks turned into months, the letters continued to arrive with an eerie regularity. Each one was a blend of the mundane and the mysterious, filled with details of my daily life interspersed with cryptic warnings. My grandfather's voice, once so familiar, now seemed to emanate from a place beyond my understanding. I became obsessed with deciphering his messages, poring over ancient texts, consulting with experts in the occult. The more I learned, the more unsettling my reality became. The line between the rational and the irrational blurred. The closer the Ides of March approached, the more intense the letters became. They spoke of a reckoning, a convergence of forces that threatened to shatter the fragile fabric of reality. They warned of betrayal, of hidden enemies, and of a choice that would determine my destiny. I was caught in a web of intrigue and danger, and I didn't know who to trust or where to turn. The letters had become both a lifeline and a curse, offering glimpses of a hidden world while simultaneously plunging me deeper into its mysteries. The truth, I realized, was a double-edged sword. And as the Ides of March drew near, I knew that I was about to face a truth that would change my life forever. On the eve of the Ides of March, I received one final letter from my grandfather. It was short, almost curt, but the words were heavy with meaning. "The crossroads await," it read. "Choose wisely, for the path you choose will determine not only your fate, but the fate of those you hold dear." I knew what I had to do. I gathered all the letters, all the research I had compiled, and made my way to the cemetery. It was a stormy night, the wind howling like a banshee, the rain lashing down in icy sheets. As I stood before my grandfather's grave, the storm seemed to intensify. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the storm subsided. The letters ceased after that night. The Ides of March came and went without incident, leaving me with more questions than answers. I never learned the identity of my enemies or the nature of the danger I had supposedly escaped. But I emerged from that experience a changed person. The world no longer seemed so solid, so predictable. My grandfather's legacy lived on in me, not as a burden, but as a gift. And so I wait, and I watch, and I listen, for I know that the crossroads